Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to have a look at the best melee infantry in the beta patch 1.4.1. I seen you guys ask for it in the comment section, so it's time to heed to your requests. Firstly, we're obviously only going to judge tier 5 infantry since naturally they're better than lower tiers. Secondly, they need to have a shield and a one-handed melee weapon because otherwise they're just glorified meat shields, peasants, or even worse. Archers, and there's nothing more dishonorable as killing knights with pebbles or arrows. That would be a shameful death. Infantry equipped with other weapons like spears or thrown weapons is a bonus on top, and lastly they cannot be mounted on horses, camels or mules. I'm only saying this last point in case Timmy comes to the conclusion that, well, when they dismount or have their mount killed they become infantry anyway. So I need to disqualify that idea straight away. Given these requirements, I was able to narrow down the choice to these fine specimens, namely my beloved Sturgeon Veteran Warrior, don't worry, I'll make sure you will love, Vland Insurgent, Crusade Rakan, Imperial Ice Cream Cone, Asarai Veteran Infantry, Battanian Oathsworn, and Battanian Wildling. Whoa, wait a second, how come Battanians get to have 2 entries again? This is ridiculous! Well, since they lack archers in their main tree, instead they have a second infantryman on the ranged side of it that basically comes equipped with extra javelins. I mean, both meet all requirements, so I cannot say no. Lastly, we have the hired blade, but to be honest nobody uses mercenaries anyway, so out they go. But what about minor factions or bandits, you ask? Well, minor factions and bandits don't surpass tier 4, so they too can go out of here. Before you ask why miners were part of the top 5 ranged units video is because back in that patch they were tier 5. Now in 1.4.1 they are not. Sorry to break it to you guys. Just before we look at the unit's in-depth stats, I want to say a few things about the channel. As you see, I've taken my time to work on the quality of the recordings and the render so we can all enjoy cleaner video quality. I've also ordered the Good Owl Blue Yeti to improve the audio, but that's another week until it arrives. I like video games guys, just like all of you, and I do play other games other than Bannerlord, namely Total War Warhammer 2 and CK2 at the moment. However, I too play other games from time to time, so don't be surprised if you ever see content from Total War Warhammer 2 or CK3 when it releases, and from time to time others. I'm also looking out for Baldur's Gate 3 and few other releases, so that's a little heads up, and don't worry, it won't be some 70-hour long let's plays. And lastly, in all my wisdom, I decided to buy a bow, so from time to time you guys might see me fail to pull the string or hit the target, and other things noob archers tend to do, like get their fingers chopped off by the French. Thank you for watching and engaging with the content by liking and commenting, it's just great to see and I'm happy to see the channel grow, all thanks to you. So without further ado, let's have a look at our first contestant. The Asarai Veteran Infantry is a well-rounded unit. He's well skilled for melee combat, and with 1.4.1 skill system having 160 skill and one-handed, definitely puts him ahead of all the other infantry with 130. On top, he comes with a spear to fend off any mule heading right at him, and with 5 eastern javelins to give him that bit of range damage against oncoming foes or to hunt down retreating ones. The shields aren't the best, but units die before they lose their shields anyway in 99% of cases, unless you keep them in a shield wall formation for the entire battle, and I don't think many of you do that. They have a good armor rating between 2.26 and 2.46, and their armor is pretty good in general except for their head armor, which if hit by stronger piercing damage weapons it will prove fatal for them. Battanian Wildling, similarly to the Asarai Veteran Infantryman, comes equipped with a spear and throwable weapons. In 2 of the 3 loadouts he spawns with, he gets 5 hooked javelins, but has a 1 in 3 chance to get 3 Highland throwing axes, which aren't that great, but do bonus damage against wooden structures and shields, but the AI will never throw axes, especially at siege ramps or gates. Same goes for his shield, where 2 of the 3 get nice new Battanian shields and 1 of the 3 gets the same shield as Asarai Veteran Infantry. Skill wise he's doing pretty well with a nice skill rating, maybe not the 4.33 average, mainly because he gets 3 weapons and tier 5 units in most cases only have 130 skill and 2 weapons, so versatile units suffer from having a little under the average skill rating, but it doesn't really matter that much. His head armor is a bit better than Asarai's, body armor and leg armor around the same, but where he misses out is his arm armor, which is pretty poor, leaving him with 2.27 armor rating. Moving on to the other side of the battalion troop tree, we see the Outsworn, whose skill rating is truly poorer than the others this time around, but it only comes from his poorer athletics, so I wouldn't see it as a big problem really, since his combat skills are at 130. He's the first unit so far that doesn't have throwing weapons, but it isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'll explain why after I talk about all these units, since it applies to all of them. He can spawn with either an axe or a sword, which is pretty good, especially that axes do bonus damage against wooden structures like siege equipment and gates, and shields of course. He boasts the same shield as his counterpart, except in all his loadouts, not just 2. His armor rating doesn't stand out between 2.22 and 2.46, but puts him a bit above his wildling friend. Having pretty good head armor, okay leg and body armor, and poor arm armor again. And an interesting point is that he shares the same body armor piece as the wildling. Khuzaid Drakan. I'm just going to refer to him as Drakan as it sounds better in my opinion. Yet again we see extra spear and thrown weapons, which is pretty neat. With 5 Eastern Javelins each, they can wreak some havoc on the battlefield. Their skill rating is pretty good with combat skills at 130 except for throwing, but that's a skill they won't use much anyway. The shield could do a bit better, especially that it isn't specifically large, and from what I've been playing in this beta patch, it feels like shields don't have extra magical hitboxes to catch arrows that should hit them no more. So a small shield puts them in harm's way against mass ranged formations. He does however make up for it with his armor rating that stands at beautiful 3.01, which is considerably higher than the previous 3 we already covered. This includes nice head, body and arm armors along with good leg armor. It's finally time for the ice cream cone man. I don't know why, but his helmet reminds me of an ice cream cone and the towers of Eastern Orthodox churches, except less thick. His skill rating is a tad better than the Drakan's due to better throwing. He comes equipped with either a sword or a mace, which is very effective against well-armored opponents, which is pretty much anyone in this list. He comes with either of 2 shields, one being almost half as bad as the other, which is one of the best in the game at the moment. We see beautiful armor ratings ranging from 2.99 to 3.15. He's armored like a true tank with 40s everywhere and 60s on the body. And the last thing that needs to be mentioned is his now throwable Pila, which can be both used as a short spear or be thrown. To be honest, it's a very short spear, and compared to others on this list, it's not great at fighting against cavalry, so you should always let them throw it out at oncoming foes instead, as it can kill anyone with a headshot, does extra damage to shields, and can kill any lightly armored opponents with ease. Now it's time for my beloved Sturgeon Veteran Warrior. Skill wise, he comes with 130s across the board, which is pretty nice. All of his loadouts are armed with axes for that bonus against wood, and a set of 5 javelins to inflict damage on enemies before or after engagement. He comes with 2 sets of shields, the heavy round shield considerably better than the other due to its durability and sheer size difference. Armor rating ranges from good to better at 2.29 to 2.86, which is a sadly large difference. As you can see, he comes with really good body and head armor, but only in 2 of the 3 loadouts, while arms and legs similar and pretty okay. Coming around to our last contestant, we have the Vlandian Sergeant, which I feel got some shenanigans going on because, as you see, he only comes with 2 weapons. However, in one of the 3 cases he actually gets a short bill, which technically disqualifies him out of this top 5, but I feel like it was the dev's honest mistake to swap his one-handed axe for a bill, which in-game is a two-handed axe. This is further reinforced by the poor two-handed skill, which isn't counted into his skill rating here, as I feel this is something that will be fixed soon. Other than that, we have a sword and a mace, which, like with the ice cream cone man, is pretty effective against armor. He also comes with a spear and a good durable shield. Armor rating ranges from 2.47 to 2.8, which isn't great but still not as bad as the Sturgeon one. We see a good armor across the board except for the body armor on the second loadout. Having covered all of our contestants' in-depth stats, we need to talk about thrown weapons such as javelins and thrown axes, mainly because when your units stand in one large cohesive shield wall, they can hold off a shower of arrows or throwables pretty well from ranged units taking minimum damage from looker shots. However, the moment they reach for the throwables, they put their shield aside while aiming and throwing, exposing their bodies to incoming projectiles. Here we can see this happen, however it didn't have deadly consequences, except for this one guy, because we were 24 versus 9 and they're just forest bandits versus tier 5 Asura infantry. but imagine this on a bigger scale, or if it was 24 versus 24. I'd take more losses because of my men trying to throw their javelins at the enemies. So in bigger battles, I would definitely hold your frontline infantry from using throwables unless enemies are retreating and you want to deal extra casualties. If you're filling in the blanks on the wall during a siege to get extra damage out before enemies reach the wall, or in an open battle you have ranged advantage over your enemies where they just don't have sufficient damage output to threaten your front line. I also find javelin throwing work well against melee cavalry. Now, having said that, let's rank my top 5, which honestly was very hard. The more I thought about, the more I changed this top 5 around until I realized that a good solid infantryman only needs durability, a large shield, and a one-handed melee weapon, which is what I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So it may be a bit controversial with what some of you think based on the info I gave in my video and your own experiences and playstyles. If you're wondering why I don't take their weapon stats into consideration, is because mostly they all have tier 4 weapons except for throwing, which are mostly tier 3, and there's little difference between them, especially for the 2 different spears shared between 5 of the 7 units. The weapons do make a difference in single combat, but in larger battles I think it makes next to no difference based on my experience, so definitely let me know in the comments down below what your top 5 would be. The 5th spot comes to the Battanian Wildling. He boasts poorest armor rating but is pretty versatile with extra javelins and spear, allowing him to tackle most foes. Their shields are good, but the new Battanian shield that 2 of the 3 wield have a tendency to let a projectile through every now and then, even in a shield wall. Place number 4 is the Aserai Veteran Infantry. They boast good body armor with rather poor head armor, which is negated by their shields and a shield wall, but in hand-to-hand combat they're in a risky place since blows to the head can come from anywhere, including stray arrows. They have javelins for hunting down retreating foes and inflicting damage before combat begins, along with a spear to deal with cavalry. 3rd spot belongs to the Sturgeon Veteran Warrior, and not due to my favoritism for him. Their shield wall is a hard nut to crack in a head-on collision, even though 1 in 3 get a pretty bad shield. They do lack a spear, but even cavalry have a hard time dealing with their shield wall, and their javelins can be well utilized in anti-cav combat. They do have 3rd best armor, with 1 of the 3 loadouts having 1 of the poorest armors, and so that combined with the 1 of the 3 poor shields keeps them from taking the 2nd spot, and you can argue between them and Aserai taking this 3rd spot currently. 2nd spot is taken by the Vlandian Sergeant, pretty decently armored with 1/3 of the loadouts being a bit poorer, but like Imperials they all wield good sturdy kite shields. And even though 1 in 3 come with 2-handed short bills, if you put them in a shield wall, they put away the bill and whip out their spear instead, which creates a great shield wall. Now going back on what I said about them, this mix of regular and shock troops in one unit has a great potential, especially that he can deal some serious damage with a short bill, and being pretty short they'll be able to maneuver it better around in a tight formation compared to longer 2-handed axes and so on. So it's definitely an interesting development for this unit. And finally, the 1st place belongs to the Imperial Ice Cream Cone. They are the toughest and most durable frontline troop. They have a large shield for creating a good solid shield wall. Their pila cannot be well utilized as a spear since it's too short, and even though it deals more damage than most throwables, it's only 1 pila, and if they miss, they miss. But as a durable tank with a large shield that can fight well in the melee, he deserves this spot. So what about the Drakan? Well, being pretty versatile and with 2nd best armor sets, he only misses out due to the poor shield that cannot protect his entire body in a shield wall, letting projectiles through consistently. If he had the square wicker shield, he would take the 1st spot easy and push everyone down by 1 spot. The Oathsworn was a hard choice between him and the Wildling, but yet again it came down to shields. The Southern Oval shield used by 1/3 of the Wildlings is better at tank and arrows than the new Battanian shields, which they both share. On top, the Wildling has javelins in his loadouts and their armor is similar except for head. So this wraps up my top 5 infantry units as of beta 1.4.1. It's more than likely that we'll see this list change with coming updates. Like I said before, let me know in the comments what your top 5 is, and if you like the content, please do consider liking the video and subscribing. Having said all that, best of luck and have a good day guys.